Smart 24, driving business.
Hello and welcome back from that short commercial break. And of course, as we were discussing earlier, we discussed quite a number of issues pertaining women's participation and representation, of course, in climate action. But also at the same time, we also looked at how can we encourage women to participate in climate action and advocate for policies that consider gender equality. And of course, we also talked about a number of women programs that support, of course, gender equality. We talked about women in renewable energy, where of course we talked about also these global platforms that support women to be focused on the role of promoting women's participation. But at the same time, we also concluded our second session with looking at the role of capacity building to ensure equal participation and representation in decision-making processes. Now, we are going to, of course, entertain you with climate finance as another thematic area, and of course in the room we have had one of the prominent figures to discuss with us what does it mean for us to have increased financial support for not only green projects but also climate action activities, and what initiatives can be there to ensure that we have the role of climate finance in driving transition, but also the transition to low carbon and sustainable economies. So of course in the room we have Arthur Musinguzi, who is going to of course walk through us this thematic area. You're most welcome, Arthur.
Thank you.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Very much audible, Arthur.
Okay.
Yes.
So thank you for having me, and I'm very happy to be here. We are all waiting to see what comes out of the COP discussions, but also what we have prepared and what we are taking to COP in terms of the thematic area of climate finance. As you know, everything else cannot move. Adaptation, mitigation, whatever it is, even the climate change catastrophes, we can only keep talking about them if there is no financial solution.
Absolutely.
So I'm here to give solutions.
Solutions. I like that. So Arthur, is it okay if you discuss with us the need, what do you think should be done to increase financial support for especially green projects? And maybe we can even narrow this to Uganda. What do you think should be done? Do you think that the government is not playing its role? What do you think is the gap when it comes to increase of financial support for such projects?
Okay, so on that, you know, Uganda is among the least developed countries in the world.
Yes.
Uganda is also, unfortunately, among the most vulnerable, in fact, fourth to climate change, right? And then the same country is also heavily indebted. You get it? The same country is among the poorest countries in the world. You get it? And then we are also in the listed in the least developed countries. So I think what I'm trying to tell you is giving you a picture of how hard it is for our government to move anything alone. So it has to have effort from development partners, from other collaborators, international banks such as World Bank, policymakers such as IMF, of course, plus our own local economists and the Ministry of Finance, to be able to work together and push something, especially when it comes to greening the economy. However, this is not possible right now, or it is moving at a slow pace than we would have expected, especially us who are eyeing an economy which is green, a transition which is green, a move into using clean energy, a move into renewable energy, a move into using technology that is friendly to the environment, and also basically forestation and greening the entire city and the country in general.
Yeah.
So as you can see, these are projects that are extremely expensive. So one of the things that I can suggest could be none other than increasing the climate finance that this country can have. And there are various ways that, and some that have been achieved over the years since the beginning of, bring us today's topic, since the beginning of COP. However, the implementation first has been a problem. Acceptance of the high developed countries and richer countries to accept that indeed, of course they accept that they've done a mistake, but they have not yet shown it. They have not shown the humility financially. You get?
Yeah.
They have not committed. Okay, the commitment is there, but they have not shown the commitment financially. They have just done a lip service our problems, but have not actually put any money aside to solve these issues. Starting from the 100 billion per year that was agreed about by the Paris Agreement, and other forms of finance such as the Green Fund. We can see that only one country, I think, which was Mexico, put only 3 million, and I think that's it. The other countries have not yet put any money into that basket.
That's true.
Same as last year at the Loss and Damage Fund, COP in COP28 in Egypt, where a loss and damage fund was put in place, especially for us who are very vulnerable to the climate crisis, to be able to safeguard our citizens.
Yeah.
I'm sure you also know that I think like 98% or more of our farmers do not have any sort of insurance.
Exactly.
If a climate catastrophe comes, that's it.
That is it. Yeah.
The cows are going to die, the plants are going to be swept away. You get, we are absolutely going to face the impact as it has come.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you look at other countries such as Netherlands, which are responsible for the catastrophes we are facing today, for them, a farmer like us, they don't mind so much about the catastrophes because everything is insured. The government can pay back. But ours is here heavily indebted and cannot do anything about any climate catastrophe.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right when you say we cannot do anything without, well, of course, with finance catastrophe. And to me, I think you have mentioned how it is very important that we have adequate financial support. And if we have adequate financial support, this will help to scale up the green projects, but at the same time also accelerate the shift away from carbon-intensive practices. And I think to me, financial support facilitates research and development, especially in technologies and also, of course, innovative solutions. So I think to me, it is very important that we have increased funding, which will encourage also the private sector to invest and adapt into the innovative green technologies, but at the same time, it will also foster economic growth and sustainability. So to me, I think climate finance is just not about mitigating the causes of climate change, but I think it's also about helping communities to adapt to, of course, like he said, very many farmers would have a very big challenge if they are affected by floods, if they are affected by drought, and therefore, climate finance is not about mitigation, it's about adaptation as well, and it's also very, of course, important that we are able to fund projects that enhance the resilience of vulnerable communities to climate-related events. And if we can do that, of course, things people who are now living across the seas are having sea level rises. People who are also in the North Uganda are having drought. So I think to me, we now need to invest more money into projects that deal with climate-related events. And of course, we talked about how climate finance mechanisms such as green bonds and of course climate risk insurance, like what you said, I think farmers and not only farmers but even other stakeholders should have that insurance. But if we do have this, then this will help to mitigate our risks, but also make it attractive for both public and private investors to participate in sustainable initiatives. And And of course, earlier we talked about the financial support for projects, and we talked about how it should be aligned with sustainable development goals, but also importantly to ensure that we look at sustainable investments towards making significant progress. So I think to me this will raise a question to, of course, the lady in the room, the one single lady in the room. Well, I think I just wanted to understand, what do you think are those opportunities in financing adaptation projects? Do you think?
Excuse me, Clinton. Maybe before we go there.
Yeah.
I thought earlier you had touched issues like debt cancellation.
Debt cancellation.
I don't know why it has not been mentioned. This is a very serious form of climate finance.
All right, that's right.
Especially for the global south countries. Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, etc. DR Congo.
Those guys.
In addition to South Sudan, in addition to our political problems, you get, and economic backwardness, sorry to say, not that we want, right? All of us have been left in this situation for very many years because of the existing debt. Do you know that today that you are still paying a debt that was incurred by Milton Obote? The times of Milton Obote, up to today, we are still paying. You get that northern bypass? It was a plan of Obote. It has just been put in place. You get, so everything is taking a longer time because of the current situation that we have of being heavily indebted. So the very rich countries with influence in the IMF, such as Germany, the United States, Netherlands, among others, you get, they need to consider cancelling these debts of the global south countries. Yeah. First, because they have been beneficiaries and their economies have significantly grown, what we admire today, because of enjoying such benefits. However, they cannot present the same to us.
So what do we do as a country towards this?
So as a country, as young people, we, together with UNDP, Ministry of Water, and even, I think we tried our best to push the agenda of debt cancellation, which was pasted with many nice words, but the real idea was debt cancellation. I also spoke to this idea with some of our lead negotiators, Professor Kadu, and then Patricia from the Ministry of Finance, and it is an idea that Uganda is willing to front at COP28. The issue of debts, our debts cannot be ignored. If we are to develop, and if we are also to solve the climate catastrophes that exist today.
But do you think, do you think it is really possible to achieve this, to actually have this done? Like, let's talk reality. Of course, you have already mentioned a country that has debt cancellation, which is okay. But do you really think that? Okay, if you were to put yourself in the foot or in the shoes of these of course organizations, international organizations that do support Uganda, do you really think they would sit down and make a policy like that?
Actually, putting myself in their feet, I think it would be extremely possible. Because first, let's use an example of America, a very historic polluter, right, to date.
One of the biggest.
Yes, one of the biggest in the world, and still polluting to date. And all of that, by the way, carbon emissions, when you emit carbons, they do not stop within your borders of America. No.
That's right.
They go to other countries. And among those countries that suffer literally every day, among others, is Uganda and other global south countries. You get? So well knowing the impact that you have caused, if you watch a video and you see a child dying tomorrow because of extreme drought and failure to have food, I don't know how you can say that you demand them since the time of Obote, that you're not going. The country is already struggling, is not even paying you yet. Struggled for many years since 1960 something, and until today, you'd rather watch their citizens die than forgiving them so that they can feed this child. If I was in their shoes, I think it would be very possible to cancel the debts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think to me, Arthur really would want to see Uganda be a part of those countries that have, that are free from any debts. And I think to me that's important when it comes to, having finance as an opportunity for innovation, but also as an opportunity for development of insurance schemes. So we have quite a number of difficulties or challenges in financing adaptation projects, and we want to look at those specific challenges. What are those specific challenges, Alison, that you think that are not yet, what is limiting us, honestly, from actually accessing these funds to, fund our projects?
One thing I would say is that most of these funds are inaccessible. They're out of this world. The proposals to get them, first of all, you need like, I think, a masterclass or something, and these are not accessible to especially countries in the global south. Uganda as a country, the people are struggling to get these funds. When you're applying for a fund, you are going through such a bureaucratic process, and it's so difficult for you to access them. So what are we doing? What is our government doing to ease these funds for us? As youth, how are we able to get these funds? As people in the space, as even stakeholders, how are you making it easy for us to get these funds? We really need bankable proposals.
That's right.
We need proposals that are able to get into the hands of the actual stakeholders, or the people who give us these funds, and say, oh, this is bankable for us. This is bankable for Uganda as a country, so they can take it on. When it comes to adaptation, basically, it's more like, how do we adapt to things like loss and damage fund? How do we incorporate it into what we are doing? How do we make sure that it reaches us at grassroots levels? Yeah,
that's very, very, very important to actually look at. And of course, you have talked about limited financial resources, which of course affect vulnerable communities, and therefore they don't have the capacity to invest in adaptation projects or mitigation projects. And I think, to me, limited financial resources is a very, very big one. But also, we have quite a number of opportunities. But before we look at the opportunities, I wanted to understand from Arthur, we have the private sector. Are we going to keep looking for financial support from international organizations? Or it is now high time that we look at what role does the private sector play in climate finance, and how can we have the private sector invest in sustainable practices and technologies? We should also have private organizations coming up to say, okay, you know what, we have this amount of money to support maybe capacity building, or maybe we have this amount of money to support this project, as long as it's a sustainable practice. But what role, Arthur, do you think that the private sector should play? Because we know that the private sector plays a crucial role in climate finance. And of course, it has the financial resources that we're looking for. The private sector has the innovation capabilities. The private sector has the operational scale to ensure that we drive sustainable development and address climate change. It has all this capacity, it has this muscle, but we do not see the impact. We do not see them come out. We only look at international organizations, with the IMF and the rest coming to give us this money that we're looking for the one that we are determining as climate finance. So, Arthur, what do you think the private sector should do to be a part of the climate finance conversations, and also investment as well?
Okay. So let's use Uganda as an example. Since I am a Ugandan, it's very hard for me to start talking about things of America and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
Get. So Uganda, they are two biggest employers, right?
Yeah.
The first is the government, then the other one is the private sector.
Yeah.
The government only employs about 1 million people. what is the population of Uganda today?
Total population?
Yes. 49.5 million people, right? Minus the children and the old people, it leaves us with about 75%, 74 of people who are ready for employment. That's mostly the young people, right? And on this, the government is only employing, I think, less than 1%, meaning the rest of the power is to the private sector. So the private, and it has not just started. Over time, Uganda has always had the youngest population in Africa, right? Among the youngest in Africa.
That's right.
So that means that our economy has, for generations, been driven by the private sector. So if we have any problem, whether it's climate finance, whether it's mobility, whether it's agriculture, whatever it is, our solution is supposed to come from the private sector.
That's it.
You get?
Yeah.
So at this point, our eyes are supposed to be looking at the private sector. You get?
Yeah.
In fact, even the private sector gets more money from our economy than
The government.
Yeah, than the rest of, especially the international partners. You get? So even our international partners should not be a focus. Secondly, they also come with funny strings attached to whatever they are coming with. You get? So, for example, they will come and tell us that we are supposed to sell a certain building, it's not making as much money, sell a certain land, this one opposite you, Shimon, it was once a school, it has made some of the best leaders. Right now it is Kampala Kingdom, something where people don't even come to their restaurants. You get? So it comes with funny policies like that, and then in the end, it is our economies that are going to die over time. So we should rely significantly on the private sector. Our private sector, you may know, in fact, in East Africa, has some of the wealthiest people. You get? Even in Africa. We have Sudil Ruparelia, who is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the most richest East African.
He's the fourth richest.
Yeah, no, in
richest.
East Africa.
Second richest in East Africa.
In East Africa, yes. We also, even in Africa, he's among the richest. We also have this man, Bitature, Patrick Bitature. Then we also have, there's another billionaire. So our private sector, on the contrary, I'm not sure, apart from maybe assuming and guesswork, it is very hard for you to come and tell me that you can name for me 5 billionaires who work in government. You get? So our eyes should be on this private sector. All of them, it employs most of our young generation, meaning if we have anything to channel, any ideas to sell, they are supposed to be sold to the private sector first. The private sector foundation has tried to play its role, but the element of climate change has not really come out very well. So we need to incorporate and tell people that the issue of climate change is something that needs as much effort to be addressed as much as other things, as much as education, health, transport, etc. So we have to work with the private sector to make sure that all of our solutions move. And lastly, the private sector comes with most of the innovations. And I think it is high time that we collaborated with the private sector and brought innovations that work friendly with the private sector so that we can be able to work together and solve the climate crisis that exists. but also be able to mitigate what is already existing.
Yeah.
Actually, before you actually conclude, when it comes to access to green finance, or what we call climate finance, what is the role of financial institutions on this? Because we have, of course, financial institutions that are privately owned. So, what role do they play? Do you think that they're supposed to be at the forefront as well?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you have seen, of course, I've not so much appreciated the roles that our financial institutions are doing, the banks, but
You're not appreciated yet.
not yet. If, let me say, Stanbic comes and they say that they are doing a run for trees, after one day, two, what have we seen?
None.
What is the implementation? What is the impact onto someone in Karamoja, onto someone in Bududa whose house has landed somewhere? You get all of that is left to the government with the Ministry of Disaster and whatnot. You get. So apart from funny runs that are brought up for them to buy their kits, we need to see an actual impact by the banks onto the people.
Yeah.
You get. If we say that you really want to help on the issue of climate change and greening, let us see you build houses for people who have suffered from landslides in Bududa and build for them houses.
Yeah.
Let us see you putting water irrigation plants in extremely dry areas. Those 9 districts in Karamoja, especially Morota and Kabong. You get. We want to see you put up projects that will be there for years. In fact, expand them.
Yeah.
We want to see you sensitize the youth in those areas to be able to manage those projects without your staff members earning from them,
Exactly.
or you micromanaging the projects. You get. We want to see these banks. I think it was it's been on a Stanbic. The other one was running for cancer. Whatever Centenary Bank. I think I need to get serious that some of this cancer is actually caused by pollution.
My emissions, you're right.
Yes.
You're
And
right.
get back to the drawing table that they need to finance issues concerning
Climate action.
yes, climate action.
Yeah.
So anyway, on a serious note, our banks are, and we have very many banks here in Uganda and in other East African countries that have a significant potential, which actually take our interest. The other time I was charged, I think, like $24 for nothing. The bank just removed my money that it's an international transaction. Imagine what 80,000 would have done to me, to my life, but it was taken for nothing. I would appreciate very much if that my bank, which took my 80,000, was going to use like 40,000 to solve some people's problems in Karamoja or Duda or wherever.
Yeah.
But just taking my money, it does not make any sense. So I think these financial institutions have a great role to play in solving this issue, and they need to re-strategize their annual work plans to make sure that they incorporate climate action.
Exactly, and maybe I'll start with Alison on this, and then maybe to Arthur. Alison, what do if we have talked about the role of the private sector, and we have talked about how pivotal they should be in these conversations, what do you think a collaboration between the public and private sector would achieve?
Oh, that would be a powerful collaboration, especially when it comes. You see, the public sector has more access to resources than the private sector.
Yeah.
Now, if they were to collaborate together, it would be a powerful tool, especially for Uganda as a country, because usually we see the public sector, it's the government. Of course, they will do activity because they are meant to do it.
They are mandated to do it.
Yes, they are mandated to do them. But now you see the private sector is more intentional about these activities. And even if it came to say that maybe the public sector says, let's fund a private company, which cannot happen. Let's fund a private company because it's doing this much work. Let's see how we can support it. Maybe they'll partner with it to boost it. But we need more collaborations with the private sector and the public sector, because it makes such a huge difference, because it will be so easy for someone in the private sector to work with someone in the public sector. There are different rules, different approaches to things, and they have a wider perspective. The private sector has a wider perspective. It's not routine. It's not, this is how we usually do it.
Yeah.
It's, this is the approach we are using because this is how the thing is going. So I definitely think it would be such a powerful tool for us as a country, especially when we are reaching out to places, to marginalized communities.
Yeah, I think to me that's very important. Collaboration between public and private will be very good, because it will of course lead to sharing of knowledge and of course resources and the risk. If we can share that together, I mean, the resources, risks, and knowledge, to me, I think we shall have a very good collaboration, just like you said. And of course, the public-private partnerships, these ones, the PPs, they facilitate joint initiatives. You will find that we can now leverage the strength of both sectors to address, of course, the climate challenges. He mentioned about the access to green finance, where financial institutions should separate green finance products and also the green bonds. And if we can do that, then to me we shall of course create a link between funding and a positive environmental impact. And of course, just like you said, that is the most important thing. And maybe just something small. What is your say on innovation and research and development?
Yes. So as a young person also in this sector, especially on the technology side, I think this is the future.
Exactly.
You get?
Absolutely.
And if it is the future, then this is also where the solutions are.
Yes.
So we need as much support in form of resources, human resource, and psychosocial support, that is mental health and etc. And all of these are supposed to help us to fund the different research that can be put into place, especially in Uganda. Speak for our country because it's the most vulnerable. You get? One of the most vulnerable. So we need to invest in technologies, innovations that are supposed to help us to earlier inform us before these climate disasters come.
Early warning systems.
Yes, early warning systems. But we cannot do this without research. You get? So, and as you know, research is one of the things that needs a lot of funding.
Absolutely.
Extremely a lot of funding. Especially because it is not a one-day thing that you've eaten food and then you're okay. Now you can go ahead and do other things. In fact, even food, you may get hungry the next minute. Now what about research, which changes every day? Today you think that it's going to rain, and the next day there's no rain. The weather patterns have significantly changed. Today you think in Senene, I don't know that you've seen them.
I've not eaten them in any day of this.
You get? You think Senene is going to come? That has been your business for generations. Every November, that is where your family gets school fees for children.
They are nowhere.
They are nowhere to be seen. You get me?
That's true.
So we need these early warning systems in place, and they cannot be done unless we have any form of research that is funded. And I believe that these international organizations, the government, they can be able to collaborate with various universities where young people who are innovative can come and be able to learn something that will have a very big impact on their lives, especially because the existing academic structure is more like useless. As you can see, it's a very few percentage of our people actually get employment after graduating. It means there is a problem. There is not much that was put into research on what the future is. But other developing countries, let me give an example of Kenya. They are investing so much in technology, and it's helping them a lot, and their people. Even other countries in the richer countries, everyone is now into technology. So what is Uganda
Artificial
waiting for?
intelligence, actually.
Yes, what is Uganda? Now we have gone into
Artificial intelligence.
What are
Before
we
we
waiting?
get into technology.
Before we adapt even to the existing technology and what not, we are other people are into artificial
Another
technology,
role.
and as we are sleeping,
That's where
you get. So we need to invest in this, so that we are not left behind.
That's true.
You get. Thank you.
Actually, Arthur, before you came, we had a very lengthy discussion with Alison as we talked about capacity building. We talked about the role capacity building plays to ensure people are very much engaged in climate action. But this is just to say that what do you think would be the importance of capacity building to developing countries for them to be able to manage climate finance? Do you think that maybe because we don't know how to manage the 100 billion that has been promised to so many countries? Because I've also been thinking of, we need to know how capacity building, yes, it is important, but I think management of this climate finance is key. Ensuring that our active participation in global climate efforts is also very key. So I think, to me, capacity building for us to understand when we receive this climate finance, how do we manage it, how do we utilize it, and how do we divide it to make sure that we take care of all the resources required. But so I think that is something that I wanted to hit on that. And then maybe just something small, as you also hint on that, please also hint on the importance of accountability and transparency. I think the elephant in the room at COP will be the global stock take. That will be very important for countries to actually get the accountability they have always wanted, especially after the 5 years according to the Paris Agreement. But as you also elaborate on capacity building, elaborate more on the need for transparency, the importance of accountability in climate finance, ensuring that funds are used effectively, that there is adequate tracking. There should be that tracking of financial contributions and project outcomes. That should be very, very important for us. And I think, the other one will be for Alison. But if you can hit on those two, you will give me a very good direction.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Much as the question is very broad, because capacity building, then we have accountability on the other side.
Yeah.
Those are like two different things.
Areas, yes.
However, they work hand in hand.
Transparency.
So it's very hard to definish. Like the line is thin
Sure.
between the two. So starting from capacity building,
Please.
capacity building is, I think, one of the most important things, especially not just for Uganda, by the way. This is the same problem for East Africa, Africa, and very many other countries that are in the global south. You may be shocked that a person in India knows the same information or less than you when it comes to climate change. You get the same. Let me give the quickest example. The people, India is I think among the third, one of the three, including us, when it comes to malnutrition.
Okay.
And of course, malnutrition due to climate change and strong, very bad weather patterns.
Yeah.
You get, and Uganda also suffers the same as these people. What are they? The nomads, the Maasai.
In Kenya.
Yes. So we almost suffer the same things, but our level of knowing our problem, like what is hitting us, is the issue. So we need to do a lot of capacity building, and I think this is one of the, now joining in, this is one of the areas that needs to extremely be funded. Because first, our people do not understand climate change. They think it's a foreign thing.
Yeah, by the way, most people think it's
they think it's a foreign concept that has nothing to do with Uganda. Here it is the gods maybe who we have disappeased, and they decide that it's not going to rain.
Yeah.
Or that a certain river is going to flood. You get in Pakwach there. I was actually in Arua and Mbale and Entebbe. And you may think it's a joke, but people still believe that in small gods, that these weather patterns are due to them annoying the small gods. They are small gods, Naruwale, whatever. You get the flooding of the rivers is due to yes, to the gods. I'm telling you, we were in a conference room and people were talking about such things. We went on the ground in the refugee camps and people are speaking about such things. Yes, so the level of illiteracy on climate change is extremely hard, to the extent that even when we try to inform them that these are actually climate catastrophes due to your human actions, they could not believe us.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
So we left when we were divided. The other people.
So there is even a problem of mindset.
Yes. So I think you can see how deep-rooted the problem of capacity building has to go. So when you see a person or whichever way the money is supposed to come, for example, the loss and damage funds, in which they are supposed to come into this thematic area of capacity building so that people are sensitized, their mindset is changed towards climate change, it's going to be a very difficult one. In addition to the existing challenges already of corruption, bribery, etc. But the flow of the information alone, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know what maybe we may have to put in a lot of money into research, into maybe using the same traditional leaders to speak to them about climate change, maybe religious leaders, maybe their local leaders to inform them, because when you come with white people and you who learned with your big English words,
you'll be strange.
They will not believe you.
Exactly.
You get, so that is the existing challenge in these two areas.
Absolutely. Yes, please. Alice.
But I also think when we are reaching out to these areas, it's more like we are trying to get tradition out. I feel like when we come with a different narrative, the people in these communities think we are trying to kill tradition and culture. So when we are talking to traditional leaders, it becomes a bit difficult. But also I think that's why we have members of parliament there maybe, and also people who advocate for them, youth leaders, women leaders in those societies to reach out. So it depends the level of involvement in conversations like this and involvement in
the level of
practical involvement. Yes.
Yeah, I think to me, I agree with you when you talk about the level of involvement. It is very important that we have very many stakeholders so much involved in, and also representation, not only involvement, but representation, participation, active participation, to ensure that we are part of these conversations. I am very amused by the example that I gave when he said people have a mindset, a traditional mindset, and by the way, we cannot blame them. I don't think we have to blame them. I think we need to blame ourselves as well. We need to blame. Of course, I can't say we have to blame the government. And the government has tried to play its role. It has played its role actually, but I think more can be done. There is still more that we can do as the private sector, but also from the public angle as well. I think there is quite a lot we can do. All right, for those that are watching us on Smart24 TV, we have had quite a number of discussions. We have quite heated on so many areas that, of course, look at gender. We looked at climate finance as well. Those are two thematic areas that will be very key at COP28, which will be happening, of course, starting with the 30th of November to the 12th of December in Expo City, Dubai. And I know that, of course, whoever is out there watching us, we just wanted to have a conversation with you, to walk with you on what it means to be a part of COP28, but also what is going to be discussed there that will actually benefit our country. And we know that there is quite a lot that will be discussed, and that is why we have dedicated a 1 week theme as Smart24 TV, which is entitled "The Road to COP28," to continue having these discussions with different thematic leads to know what does it mean for Uganda to be a part of the delegates at COP28, and also what does it mean when we are actively participating. So in summary, addressing gender today and climate finance issues at COP28 is pivotal for promoting, of course, social equity, resilience, and also sustainable development. It also aligns with the Paris Agreement, but also with a global commitment to ensure that climate action benefits all. Of course, we leave no one behind. Thank you so much for being a part of today's segment and today's episode. We were delighted to share with you issues concerning gender and climate finance. Join us tomorrow as we look at other thematic areas for you to be a part of this discussion series. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.